Hi, everybody. It is recording. It didn't tell me that it's recording, but it looks like it's recording. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Um, so this whole, I'm still in the conversation of trust, okay? It's what we talked about in our last Zoom room. And I'm finding it a very deep contemplation that's taking me on a wild ride. And so I want to continue with it today because I was looking at, and I'm just going to say this ahead of time so that maybe I can remember to do it. I came up with a game that we can play to kind of deepen our faith in trust. Oh, God. And, I'm going to start by saying I'm in an area where there are no words. It's in my mind. And so I'm going to try and see if I can put this out through the lips to make this even vaguely understandable. Okay, so what mind training? I'm just going to repeat a couple of things. Mind training is, if we have a coin, and there are two completely different ways of looking at stuff. So on one side of the coin, and this is the way we've been thinking, because it's the way we were all trained to think, is we take in through our senses, touch, sound, sight, we take in through our senses the experience of the horizontal, and then we make it mean something. Good, bad, up, down, right, left, it doesn't matter. We make it mean something. So what we're attempting to do is, rather than taking in things through our senses, because that's all ego, we're switching it to the opposite side of the coin to trust the true God that we are, and seeing only through the love that God is. Okay? And they're completely you can't do both. You can't do both. You're either choosing through our senses, and that leads us to projection, and it's a whole world of beliefs and a lot of suffering and eventually death. The other side is to see everything as truth, no matter what it is. It's truth. And if we can embrace that truth, no matter how scary it might be, and many times embracing the truth can be very, very scary. In my experience, when I was embracing truth, and still to this day, it's terrifying. Not that that needs to be your experience, but that's just what I'm saying here. So kind of switching over to this side of, just trusting everyone will show up the way they need to show up. Period. And it's me trusting that and not making judgments about that. So now I'm going to take, that's just kind of a little recap of why we're even looking at this video called Mind Training. Now I'm going to move into this faith versus belief. Okay? Belief lives on the side of the senses and leads to us projecting over everything. Belief is in a horizontal plane. It's not vertical. Belief cannot be vertical. Faith is not belief. Belief is not faith. Belief is a completely vertical, in the present moment experience. That's faith. That's trust. Okay, trust can't be based on the past into the future. Trust is none of that. That's an ego version of trust. So this vertical faith is on the side of the coin that's looking at everything through love, through a God-like experience. And that's why we're doing the mind training. We want to switch from this egoic way of looking at everything to just accepting everything that is as perfect, no matter what. And I know in our last Zoom, someone said something that really prompted something, and that was, they said they never watch news. And I believe me, I understand this. I completely get it. And if that's your choice, that's fine. But I'm going to use it as an example. And this is where I know David Hoffmeister has, mind training through the movies. And one of the beautiful things about this kind of mind training is that it's holographic. And I know the last time we also talked about holographic learning. And A Course in Miracles, the Blue Book, is all holographic learning. You can read something one day and read the same thing the next day, and it can take you to a completely different place. Because as our world shifts from the horizontal belief to the vertical, Eckhart Tolle calls it presence, everything shifts. So this idea of watching things like movies or news or anything about the horizontal world, you can learn many things about your thoughts. One of the things, and I still do this to this day, I check, Apple does this great little gift for me. Every morning, Apple sends me a little email with little headlines of what's going on in the world. That's all I really need. I don't want a lot of information. I just want enough to see if it triggers me. That's the only reason I'm looking at it, to see if it triggers me. If I have something come up like, ooh, that's wrong. Ooh, that's good. It's like, that's the trigger I'm actually looking for. That's the happy learner. Because if I get triggered, it's like, great. Now, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. What am I believing in the horizontal? And not just trusting it's perfect. And so I can say, you can use things like news. You can use things like, how many movies have I watched with mind training that I've hated the movie? Absolutely hated the movie. Only to maybe a year or two later, I'd see the same movie and go, wow, I don't know what I hated about that movie, but it was a really good movie. It's kind of like, that's our mind growing, expanding. That's our mind going from projection land to the truth of who we are and seeing everything as truth. And so, I look for those little hooks. I love those little hooks because they actually take me much deeper into my understanding of, and I want to say myself, capital S, but it's even more than that. It's really understanding of the one mind of love. It was recently, I know I'd shared about, getting bad emails, quote unquote, bad emails. And they're gifts that I give to myself to test me. Okay, are you trusting yourself? Or are you going to buy into what someone else has to say about you? Your choice. Let's see. I don't like what I just read here, but if I can see it as me presenting myself with an opportunity to trust me, then it changes everything. Because it's a completely vertical experience. Staying in the, wow, this person really has a lot to say about me. And, it lands in many different, it's like being hit with electrodes. It's like, how do I want to take this? How do I want to take this? Well, then I go immediately to my process. Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. And I want to see this through the eyes of love and truth only. And so I sit with it, and that's contemplation. And the game today that we're going to do is called the contemplation game. And it's to sit in contemplation with, what is it that hooked me? And these emails are great. Negative emails are fabulous because, and after I receive them, I don't receive a lot, but I've received a fair amount. And this last one I got was a rather lengthy one. And what I got to see was, well, these are all things I've thought about myself before. And I'm not talking in the past week, but I'm talking in a lifetime. Called Calico, these are things that I've thought about myself. So, interesting. They're picking up what I've already thought about myself. Now, do I trust that now? Is that the way I see myself now? And that's the contemplation of really looking and going deep and seeing, is that what I believe about myself now? And eventually I come out onto the other side where I have so much more trust and faith. I'm so much more vertical because I'm not, roller skating on the horizontal of going, wow, am I really fucked up and blah, blah, blah. Because those are all things I've thought about myself before. But it's like right now, I feel very content in where I find myself. And again, there's little blips that come through that challenge that, and I have to drop into deeper contemplation. But it's like, that's the life game. That's the mind training game. That's what Jesus is talking about in the whole Course in Miracles. Keep going deeper. And as we go deeper, then the experience of some of these movies or news or whatever alters completely. I'm trying to think, well, we've had we've had yet another recent war breakout. And that was always one of my, I fought against war. I fought against war. That's a funny saying right there. But the reality was that's what I pretty much did my whole life. I fought against war, starting with Vietnam and moving forward. And so I saw these little snippets on the Apple email about the war, and I must say it took me interesting places, and I was able to giggle about it because I thought, wow, this is the horizontal experience that we all came here for. And we also came here to shift it, to see it completely differently. And I was able to see that there's that many people that want to wake up. So we're giving ourselves these experiences called war or cancer or whatever you want to call it. Because I've said this so many times, and I truly believe this, cancer was my wake-up call. And I'm so now eternally grateful for it. Because I had to really dig deep into seeing cancer differently. Because it was only a fear concept prior to me really diving into mind training. And now any fear concept is my opportunity to take a much deeper dive into this experience of seeing only through the truth. But it means I have to break up that belief that war is bad, cancer's bad, this is bad, that, and believe me, I think I've had every single one of them. And I haven't had to break each of them up, because as I break up the big ones, the other ones just kind of fall away. But I have to stick with the one. And that's when I say, on the bucking bronc, it's like, stick with one of these concepts that disturbs you in whatever way it disturbs you, and sit with it, asking Holy Spirit to see it differently, and then hang on for the ride of your life. Because what's going to happen is Holy Spirit's going to assist you in seeing this differently. But it means you have to let go of some belief in order to move into the truth. Belief is horizontal, truth is vertical. And beliefs don't let go without usually some degree of what might look like suffering. But I say it's the most worthwhile pain you're ever going to put yourself through, because you will change your mind about something that you believe in. And I guarantee you will suffer less as a result. Okay, so I want to discuss this little game, the contemplation game. And I wrote it down, so I'm just going to read it. Okay, play a game. Next time you experience suffering, either mild irritation or deep pain, because it doesn't matter. They're the same thing. And if you look in the text, it tells you that they're exactly the same pain. We may have called it mild irritation because we don't want to suffer from deep pain, but they're all deep pain. And they're all calling us forth to look at something differently. So either mild irritation or deep pain. Look at what you are telling yourself about the apparent situation. Really press yourself to see that you have given some meaning to this situation. And you really this is where you have to hang on to the horse, folks, because you're going to want to bail very quickly. And you have to hang on to that horse and go, okay, really press yourself to see that you have given some meaning to this situation. And then we repeat it in our minds over and over and over again. This is what's called brainwashing. And this is not this is more to keep us hooked by ego. The more we repeat an idea in mind over and over and over again, the deeper that belief becomes. So it's like to excise that belief means that you're going to have to hang on to that horse, ask for help for Holy Spirit, and stay in the saddle no matter what. And you're gonna go on a ride, and this is contemplation, and sometimes it'll just tell you, oh, this is not worth going through this mind bullshit. Nope, hang on, stay in the saddle. That's ego talking. Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. And keep going. Also, to see that the more those egoic thoughts repeat, the more you suffer. I wish it weren't so, but that's the truth. And, oh my God. Yeah, all I can say is this is really true. If you're not addressing the thought to see it differently through the eyes of love, you're just, used this phrase before, you're digging this grave deeper. Not only are you digging the grave deeper, you're starting to fill it in on top of yourself. And that's going to take a whole lot more work to uncover the truth. Okay? So the sooner you can catch these little irritations and go, not on my watch. Sorry, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. And you stick with it and you don't repeat it. And if you repeat it, if you see it in your mind again, repeating, which I guarantee it will, this is just the nature of a belief. In order for you to believe it, it has to be repeated over and over and over again. And that's why some of these beliefs are really tough. So don't let it go. Hang in there. Every time the belief repeats itself in thought, you stand firm in your commitment to see it only through the eyes of love and ask for help with this. And this is really a whole world of contemplation. And this is where silence is helpful. And you don't, I mean, you don't have to sit in a position and hold your hands in a certain way. This will just come to you as you set up. I really want to see this differently. Your mind is going to take you on a ride. And it may take you back to childhood. It may take you to yesterday. It may take you to your last relationship. It'll take you on a ride. Stay with it and just observe as you think of, the last relationship, and I don't care how long ago it was, of how they did you wrong. Great. I told myself that a lot. I want to see that belief differently too. And then just keep watching your mind. And there'll be a lot of, yeah, and I want to see that differently. Yeah, and I want to see that differently. Oh, yeah, there's another one. I want to see that differently. That's contemplation. And it's deep, but ever so worthwhile. I can't say that enough. And it's like, it is our purpose for even being in this existence is to change our mind, which is the miracle. In order to prove to ourselves that we are miracles, we have to believe that we can change our mind and have less suffering in our life, that we can change our mind and feel a little more love in our life. And it's our only purpose here. Course says our only reason for being in this existence to accept the atonement. Guess what? This is called accepting the atonement. Picking out those little irritations that we keep repeating to ourselves over and over again and stop that train, get off, and learn that you have wings to fly. And that's so worthwhile. And it's not easy. And no matter what you're feeling, it's perfect. If tears come up, they're perfect. If anger comes up, it's perfect. If confusion comes up, it's perfect. Because those are all ego's control mechanisms. And a lot of us, for me, anger was a big one. I've said this so many times, but it's like, my fear of angry men. Well, having angry men in my life taught me to allow my anger up, which was not an easy process. Ooh, anger was not okay. I remember many times my mother telling me, honey, no one will like you if you're angry. And your father's angry because he drinks. And I had a lot of lessons early on about anger and how that's not okay. And once I was able to, because again, and I still see Teddy Poppy, he was my greatest gift to myself. He's passed, but he was active on Facebook. And I saw him as a very angry ACIM teacher. And he was the gift I gave to myself. Because at some moment I thought, okay, I'm taking on Teddy Poppy. And I really sat with it going, okay, this is my projection of the way I'm feeling about myself. So all that anger that I put a lid on very early, and then it moved into just being the perfect people pleaser, which was, you want to die a suffering death, become the perfect people pleaser, which was what I was working on until I let up the anger. And it was like Teddy Poppy allowed me to see that. And it was like, thank you, Teddy. I mean, he was really, he was really big into publishing a certain volume of A Course in Miracles. And while he was still living, I'd actually had this conversation with him that he showed me my anger, and I was so grateful. And, I could wash his feet over and over for the fact that I was projecting all my anger on him. And I actually sent him a very large financial check to support his publishing of these books, because that's how grateful I was. And it's kind of like, that's what we're here to do, is to go for the big ones. Go for the big ones. And this contemplation game, I suggest you can play this all the time. And you can carry on your life as normal. You can, go to holidays. And I mean, you don't have to change anything in your life, and you can still be playing the contemplation game. And it's perfect. Again, it's our purpose. Purpose. It's our only purpose. Okay. So with that, we're going to say goodbye, YouTubers. Stop the recording.